I've talked with you guys before about how very few things in life and in politics are black and white, and that really the difficult thing is to figure out the gray areas, and most things are gray areas, at least to some degree. And unfortunately, it's not just that some people go into this black and white thinking mode when it doesn't make sense to do it. We actually have a problem where increasingly our media infrastructure, our political infrastructure, it's based on and it's even expecting and rewarding black and white positions, which is to say hot takes, hot take culture. Nuance, even seeing both sides, is not rewarded. It doesn't get clicks, and it just is not encouraged. And so we see this vicious circle where there is less and less nuanced thinking over time. And I could pick a bunch of different examples, but let's just do two from this week to illustrate what I mean, that almost nothing is completely one thing or the other. Example number one. At the end of Donald Trump's State of the Union this week, Nancy Pelosi ripped up Donald Trump's speech and was seen tossing it on the desk in front of her. And immediately, political Twitter, corporate political analyses in the spin room after the event, everybody had to stake out a position on this. And you had people on one side saying this is a genius example of resistance and female empowerment, and Nancy saying F you to Donald Trump and it's the best thing in the world. And then you had people attacking Nancy Pelosi saying this is total puppeteering, it's worthless imagery, while Nancy Pelosi is part of the establishment. She's a terrible person. She's part of what's wrong with America. And you then had people who thought it was bad, attacking people who thought it was good on Twitter and elsewhere. And it was just a mess. And everybody just needs to calm down. This isn't a huge thing where you need to stake out some all-encompassing definitive position. What Nancy Pelosi did by ripping up the speech was a funny conclusion to a State of the Union that was a completely farcical reality show, with Trump behaving like a reality show host, springing medals on people, bringing in surprise guests. And in that context, I was feeling similar to Nancy Pelosi by the end, the eye rolling, the exhaustion from the ridiculousness of the show. And ripping up the speech felt almost like a fitting conclusion to the farce of the State of the Union. And at the same time, while it was visually funny and kind of a funny thing at the end, it doesn't really further the resistance. It doesn't help remove Donald Trump. It doesn't deal with the policy issues that we are trying to deal with. So it's not terrible and it's not genius. It's not to be attacked horribly. It's not the most powerful example of progressive activism either. It's okay that it's just sort of funny and doesn't do much for us. Let's now focus on the way in which State of the Unions have become reality shows and half the country loves it. That's what's important, not taking a black and white view on Nancy ripping up paper. Let me give you one other example, and it comes from the State of the Union. Donald Trump, during the speech, attacked Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, and then he also had brought in as a guest in the upper mezzanine Juan Guaido and proclaimed Guaido the rightful president of Venezuela. And you had people who were on one side refusing to even acknowledge Trump's criticisms of Maduro, others insisting that this was a tremendous, principled and defiant move to fight against Maduro's raping and pillaging of Venezuela, so on and so forth. Let's calm down. Nicolas Maduro is not a good guy. He's been bad for Venezuela. We can agree on that part while still being 100% opposed to Donald Trump once again getting the United States involved in Latin American regime change through his, this time it's overt propaganda. He brought Juan Guaido to the State of the Union when the status of what is going on in Venezuela is very much in question. The U.S. cannot be involved down there. This is exactly what the United States should be staying out of. It's disgusting to see Donald Trump do this, and it makes the criticisms of Guaido as a U.S.-backed puppet ring true. But Maduro is still terrible. It's okay. It's not all or nothing. And I could pick other examples, but the point is, we get nowhere when the expectation is that we have to stake out some black and white hot take, because sometimes things are black and white, but very, very rarely. And unfortunately, the whole system supports doing the black-white hot take stuff. It gets shared more. It does better on social media. It's more likely to trigger comments. But let's at least try to be aware of this structural bias and understand that it's a little more boring in the gray area, but it's actual reality, and that's where we should mostly be operating. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Vincero Watches. They're giving my audience 15% off your entire order when you go to davidpakman.com/watch. Maybe you don't usually wear a watch and you've been thinking about looking for one to elevate your look, or you've been thinking about replacing the one you have. Check out Vincero. It's an American company. All of their watches are built in small batches from high-end materials. They look amazing. And they look like something you'd spend a lot of money on, but every Vincero watch ranges from $150 to $300. I went on their website and picked out the Kairos in white and silver. Really love the look, the combination of the white face and the beige band. Really love this one. They also sent me the Kairos limited release gold reserve set. Totally different style. This one would make a fantastic gift for a couple people I can think of in my family. Anytime you see me wearing a watch on the show, I'm wearing a Vincero watch. Go through their collection. I know you'll find something you like, and you'll get 15% off when you go to davidpakman.com/watch.